Hello everyone, before I get into the video, I just wanted to let you know about some books I recently self-published on Amazon. The first one is a crossword book based around a theme of history, and the second one is a multiple choice quiz book with 1000 questions. And again, it's based around history. They're not expensive at all considering how much time I spent on them. The crossword book is £6 and the quiz book is £6.75. If you like history, general knowledge, quizzing, that sort of thing, these books would be a great thing for you to check out. And if you leave me a positive review on Amazon, it would really help me because it's very tough for independent sellers to stand out in that marketplace. I also did a history activity book for a younger audience, which you will find on my Amazon author page. I'm not entirely happy with the cover of that book, it needs updating, but I don't really have the money at the minute to update it because covers are quite expensive. However, if you want to buy it anyway, I'm not going to stop you. The manuscript is really good, it's just the cover that's not quite right. There'll be links to the books in the description, the comment section, and on my YouTube homepage. Thanks for listening, and I hope some of you make a purchase and leave a review because it would really help me a lot. Harry Potter fans have recently learned that HBO are going to adapt the original 7 Harry Potter novels into a television series, with J.K. Rowling being an executive producer. As a huge fan of the novels, I am of course interested to see what HBO will create, and there are certain scenes within certain chapters that I'm really excited to see on screen. Of the 20 scenes I'm about to discuss, about 2/3 of them were not adapted at all in the 8 movies that were released between 2001 and 2011, but there are some scenes on this list that were adapted but not adapted as richly as I would have wanted, so I would like them to be done in more detail in a TV series. Before I get into the video, there are going to be major spoilers ahead, so please don't watch if you haven't read all the books. And for those of you who love the books as much as I do, please leave your own ideas down in the comments. Kicking off this list is the potion bottle challenge from the Philosopher's Stone. This little scene crops up in the second to last chapter of the first book and is one of several obstacles guarding the Philosopher's Stone. In the original movie, we get to see the Devil's Snare, the winged keys, and the giant chessboard, but this scene was left out. The Potions Bottle Challenge was created by Professor Snape, and you have to use logic in order to pass the challenge. Faced with a collection of potion bottles, Hermione has to read a series of clues in order to figure out which bottles are safe to drink, enabling Harry to continue forwards while she heads back to rescue Ron. What I like about this challenge is how it gives Hermione's intellect another layer. We know she's a bookworm and someone who is excellent at retaining and recalling information, but this challenge also demonstrates her raw intelligence. I also enjoy the visual spectacle of the purple flames and the black flames at either end of the passage. I think it would be cool to see this on screen. In at number 19, I have the card-carrying Cupids from the Chamber of Secrets. These bizarre creatures crop up in chapter 13 thanks to the efforts of Professor Lockhart, who tries and fails to raise the atmosphere in the school in the wake of the attacks. In essence, the card-carrying Cupids are dwarves who go around delivering Valentine's cards and embarrassing students in the process. It isn't important from a plot point of view. It's the kind of scene that didn't need to be in the original movies, but it's definitely one of the funniest moments in the series, and there's a daft part of me that would really like to see it on screen. At number 18, I have House Elf Spies from the Half-Blood Prince. This one is a bit of a mixture of scenes rather than one specific scene. For those who need reminding, Harry becomes a bit obsessed with Malfoy during the Half-Blood Prince, and he wants to find out exactly what he's up to. In order to achieve this, he recruits Dobby and Kreacher to spy on Malfoy as he goes about his secret business. The reason I'd like to see this adapted is twofold. Firstly, it would give us a chance to see more of Dobby in action because in the original movies he only appears in the Chamber of Secrets and the Deathly Hallows, which is a shame. And secondly, because there's an opportunity here to actually go beyond the novel, as we don't actually see Dobby and Kreacher spying on Malfoy, we just hear about their observations when they report back to Harry. It would be fun to have a little montage of Dobby and Kreacher scurrying around Hogwarts, keeping tabs on Malfoy as he goes in and out of various locations, such as the Room of Requirement and the Slytherin Common Room. Up next is the Quidditch final from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Though Quidditch is featured in the Prisoner of Azkaban movie, we only see Harry participate in one match before his broom gets destroyed by the Whomping Willow, and that's it. In the book there are 2 other Quidditch matches, and the last of these results in Gryffindor winning the Quidditch Cup for the first time in the series so far. For me, the Quidditch final in the Prisoner of Azkaban is the most memorable of all the Quidditch matches. There's the obvious rivalry between Harry and Malfoy, which is always great to experience, but there's also the added dynamic of just how brutal the match is. The Slytherins use ridiculously dirty tactics to try and beat the Gryffindors, and the tension just continues to escalate as the match goes on, especially because Harry has to catch the snitch at a specific moment, because if he catches the snitch too early, Gryffindor would win the match but lose the cup. It's all about the points. In at number 16 I have Kreacher's Tale and character arc from the Deathly Hallows. In the Deathly Hallows Part 1, this moment is briefly touched upon, but it's so shallow compared to the original book that it's almost embarrassing. In the novel, Kreacher recounts a lengthy tale about Regulus Black, Sirius's younger brother, and how he discovered the secret of Voldemort's Horcruxes, including the location of the locket. Though Kreacher managed to escape with the locket, Regulus Black was dragged beneath the water by the Inferi. The strength of this scene is that it humanises Kreacher in a way we've never seen before. Up until this moment, Kreacher wasn't a likeable character. At best, he was pitiful, but certainly not likeable. Kreacher's emotional retelling is the catalyst for his evolution. When Harry, Ron and Hermione hear about this tale, they have much more sympathy for Kreacher and treat him with much more respect. With a renewed attitude, Kreacher dedicates himself to his house elf duties with much more gusto, creating a warm environment at number 12 Grimmauld Place. If Kreacher's arc was to be adapted, I would like to see a full flashback scene detailing Regulus's adventure in the cave and Kreacher's failed attempts to open the locket in the wake of his master's death. Also, in terms of Kreacher's overall arc, it would be cool to see him lead the House Elves during the Battle of Hogwarts, like he does in the novel. At number 15, I have the other minister from the Half-Blood Prince. This is the opening chapter of the Half-Blood Prince, and one of the most underrated chapters in the series. In essence, the chapter takes place over the course of several years, and centres on the Muggle Prime Minister's relationship with the Minister for Magic Cornelius Fudge, revealing the working relationship between the two men as they talk about various goings-on in the Muggle world and the magical world. The relationship between Fudge and the Muggle Prime Minister has been referred to in previous books, but this is the first time we actually get to see it in action. The humour Rowling brings to this relationship is one of the reasons I would love to see this adapted for a television show. Naturally, the Muggle Prime Minister is rather flabbergasted when he learns about the magical world for the first time, especially when Fudge turns his teacup into a gerbil. At the end of the chapter, we also get to see the new Minister for Magic, Rufus Scrimgeour. Given Scrimgeour isn't even featured in the Half-Blood Prince movie, this would be a great opportunity to give his character more time in the spotlight. In at number 14, I have Ron's Quidditch evolution from the Order of the Phoenix. Again, this is a series of scenes rather than one specific scene. One of the most frustrating aspects of the Order of the Phoenix movie is the fact that Quidditch is completely left out. It just disappeared from the school for a year for no apparent reason. Consequently, Ron's journey from hapless keeper to Quidditch hero isn't there. With a television show, however, there would be ample opportunity to show this part of Ron's journey. This would include the hilarious song Malfoy comes up with called Weasley is Our King. I know it's a mean thing to do, but I have a dark sense of humour, so I've always enjoyed this part of the book. Plus, it's very satisfying to see Ron overcome the jeerings of the Slytherins and rise above it all during the final Quidditch match of the season. It's important to remember that Ron is frequently overshadowed by Hermione and Harry, and this is one of the rare moments when he gets his time in the limelight. Number 13 goes to St Mungo's Hospital, also from the Order of the Phoenix. This section of the book crops up when Arthur Weasley is attacked by Nagini and is taken to St Mungo's Hospital, which leads to Harry and the Weasley family going to visit him during the Christmas holidays. This is one of the big chunks of the book that is left out of the movie. Whilst I understand why this is the case, a lot of Harry Potter fans were disappointed that St. Mungo's Hospital didn't appear on screen. It's an interesting place with different floors dedicated to different magical injuries or problems. For example, creature-induced injuries are on the first floor and potion and plant poisoning are on the third floor. During the family visit to the hospital, there are two unexpected interactions. The first is with Gilderoy Lockhart, who accidentally wiped his own memories back in the Chamber of Secrets, and the second is with Neville Longbottom and his grandmother. Neville's parents, who were driven into insanity after being tortured by the Death Eaters, also make an appearance. This is a very emotional moment and really drives home the tragedy which affected Neville so early on in life. At number 12, I have Luna's Quidditch commentary from the Half-Blood Prince. This is another comedic scene I would love to see in the TV series, and it crops up about midway through the Half-Blood Prince. Why Luna decided to become a Quidditch commentator, I do not know. But it does lead to some very amusing moments during the match, including Luna forgetting the names of players, pointing to interestingly shaped clouds, and saying that Ginny is a really nice person. It's a small scene and I understand why it isn't in the original movie, but it would be great to see this in a TV show. Number 11 goes to the backstory of Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot and Prongs from The Prisoner of Azkaban. As much as I love the Prisoner of Azkaban movie, my biggest criticism has always been how much they watered down the story of Lupin's werewolf transformations and how his three best friends, James Potter, Sirius Black and Peter Pettigrew, became animagi, and a lengthy flashback about these four students would be great to watch on screen, particularly when compared to the flimsy tale we got in the movie. They don't even explain where the Marauders map came from in the original film, which I think is a really daft decision. If you hadn't read the books beforehand, you'd have no idea what was going on. But with the HBO TV show, there's an opportunity to rectify this mistake. Into the top 10 now, I have The House of Gaunt from The Half-Blood Prince. This chapter occurs about a third of the way into The Half-Blood Prince, and involves Harry and Dumbledore going into the Pensieve to experience a memory of a ministry wizard named Bob Ogden, who went to visit the Gaunt Shack in Little Hangleton due to Morphin Gaunt's attack on a local muggle. Crucially, the Gaunts are descended from Salazar Slytherin, and the young daughter, Merope, is Voldemort's future mother, although she does of course tragically die during childbirth. This chapter is the first of many adventures into the Pensieve that enrich Voldemort's backstory. We see how twisted his grandfather and his uncle are, yet also observe the quiet, fearful nature of his mother, who is terrified of the relatives she lives with. This entire segment was left out of the movie. Again, I can sort of understand why. It's not absolutely essential, but it is a really compelling scene with some highly distinctive characters. If they cast these characters right, this part of the Half-Blood Prince could be a real standout in a TV series. On to number 9, I have Harry's Quibbler interview from the Order of the Phoenix. Or to be more specific, the conversation that happens just before Harry gives the actual interview. Midway through the Order of the Phoenix, Hermione arranges for Harry to have an interview with Rita Skeeter about Voldemort's return, so the truth can be made more readily available to the public. Hermione asks Luna if her father, who is the editor of the Quibbler, will publish the interview. When both participants agree to a meeting, Harry arrives at the Three Broomsticks and finds Hermione, Luna and Rita all sitting at a table together. It's the clash of these three personalities that makes this scene so fun to experience. On the one hand, you've got the tension between Hermione and Rita, as the former threatens the latter with revealing she is an unregistered animagus unless she agrees to do the interview, and on the other, you've got Luna's airy-fairy attitude fluttering in and out of the conversation. This scene is one of the most underrated conversations in the series, and I rarely hear people talk about it, which is a shame because it's become a favourite of mine over the years, and I'd love to see it adapted for television. Up next is another really underrated moment, which is Dumbledore's conversation with the Dursleys from the Half-Blood Prince. This is a terrific moment that crops up in chapter 3 of the Half-Blood Prince, and was completely left out of the movie, which instead starts with Harry hanging around a train station. I don't know why. In the book, Dumbledore arrives at number 4 Privet Drive at midnight to collect Harry from the Dursleys. The clash of personalities is terrific here, particularly the contrast of Uncle Vernon's suppressed outrage and Dumbledore's light-hearted, polite attitude. But such an attitude turns a little more aggressive towards the end of the scene, when Dumbledore criticises the Dursleys for their mistreatment of Harry. He doesn't raise his voice at all during this conversation, but you can feel the sense of power radiating from Dumbledore as he scolds the Dursleys for the injustices Harry has suffered over the years. It's a highly satisfying moment, and I was really disappointed when it wasn't featured in the movie, so hopefully the TV series can do it justice. At number 7 I have the Hogwarts kitchens from A Goblet of Fire. Again, this is really several scenes I'm hammering into one entry, but the first time we see the kitchens is particularly memorable, and this happens not too long after the first task is complete. Please do correct me if I'm wrong, I can't say absolutely for certain, but I don't think the Hogwarts kitchens are even mentioned in the movies. It's like they don't exist. And the biggest problem with this is that the Hogwarts kitchens reintroduce Dobby to the story. It's a really nice surprise to see his character come back into the narrative, and he also plays a key part during the Triwizard Tournament by giving some gillyweed to Harry in the second task. Another reason I love the kitchens is purely from a visual point of view. It has a very cozy atmosphere with all the house elves doddering about making food for the students. If the set design was done correctly, this would make for a great moment in a TV version of The Goblet of Fire, especially because it's a really nice change of pace after the tension in the first task of a Triwizard Tournament. Sticking with The Goblet of Fire, I have the third task at number 6. This is one of the more noteworthy examples of a scene that was featured in the movie, but left me feeling disappointed, because the third task is seriously watered down compared to the original depiction by Rowling. Rather than fighting some aggressive vines, the book version of Harry has to face a series of frightening creatures as he struggles through the final task of a Triwizard Tournament alongside Cedric, Fleur and Victor. These creatures include a boggart, a giant spider, a blast-ended Scroot, and a Sphinx with a charming riddle. There's even this weird gold mist that momentarily turns Harry upside down. It would be great to see the third task in all its glory on screen with all the obstacles in place. I still don't know why they chose to water down the third task in the movie, because it left so many Harry Potter fans feeling disappointed. Into the top 5 now, I have Harry's Midnight Misadventure, again from The Goblet of Fire. After the first task, Harry and the other champions each have a golden egg in their possession, which can be used to figure out what the next task is. After a tip from Cedric, Harry heads to the prefect's bathroom and opens the egg underwater, enabling him to listen to the Mer song. This is all featured in the Goblet of Fire movie, but the section after this, when Harry gets his leg trapped in a trick stair, didn't make it onto the screen. The cool thing about this scene is how intense it is. Though Harry is hidden under the invisibility cloak, both Snape and Filch turn up, and Snape comes within inches of discovering Harry, who is only rescued when Mad-Eye Moody makes an appearance and is able to see Harry using his magical eye. I remember reading this segment for the first time as a child and was really gripped by it. I find it even more intense than the Triwizard tasks, so I hope they adapt this scene and do it justice. At number 4, I have Voldemort as a young adult from The Half-Blood Prince. Partway through The Half-Blood Prince, Harry has a lesson with Dumbledore in which they go into the Pensieve twice, and on both occasions we see Tom Riddle, or Voldemort, as a young man. During the first scene, he visits an old witch called Hepzibah Smith who collects antiques, but it's the second trip into the Pensieve that really interests me. In this scene, Tom Riddle goes to visit Dumbledore and asks the headmaster if he can teach at Hogwarts. The tension in this scene is wicked, with the young adult Voldemort demonstrating his frustration at the headmaster's comments, whilst Dumbledore remains relaxed throughout, subtly demonstrating his sense of superiority. With a sharp script and some great performances, this would be a great scene to see in a TV series. Into the top 3 now, I have The Prince's Tale from the Deathly Hallows. Now, I know what you're thinking, we've already seen a good adaptation of Snape's memories in The Deathly Hallows Part 2. Whilst this is true, the version we get in the movie is a little lacking when compared to the book. It's solid, I like it, but there's a lot of on-screen potential waiting in the wings that didn't make it into the movie. The main thing that's missing in the movie is the dialogue between Snape and Lily as they grow up. We get to see their close friendship gradually fall apart as Snape rubs shoulders with some unpleasant Slytherin students, some of whom go on to become Death Eaters. There's also much more detail regarding Snape and Dumbledore's work behind the scenes, as the two of them work to protect Harry and take down Voldemort. As much as I enjoy Snape's memories in the movie, I know the television show could do a much better job. Sticking with the Snape theme, I have Snape's worst memory from the Order of the Phoenix in the runner-up position. This is another flashback scene that's kind of in the movie, but it's terrible. It's about 10 seconds long. Whereas in the book we get a full scene with Harry going into the Pensive and witnessing a lengthy segment involving Snape, his mother and father, along with his father's friends during their Hogwarts days. This has always been a standout moment for me because, aside from a few moments in The Prince's Tale, it's the only time we get a fully fledged look at the school days of James Potter and his friends. We get to see the dynamic of the group, with James and Sirius being the leaders, carrying with them a degree of arrogance and pride, whilst Remus is definitely the more sensible one, and Peter is the awkward hanger-on. The interesting thing about this scene is how it makes us feel sorry for Snape. He gets attacked by James and Sirius for no real reason at all, demonstrating how Harry's father is much less mature than Harry is at the same age, which is something you don't anticipate when you read this for the first time. Given how badly this is adapted in the movie, there's a big chance here to show Harry Potter fans something they've never seen before. Which brings me to number 1, the Quidditch World Cup from the Goblet of Fire. Again, this is a combination of scenes rather than one specific scene, and it was something that was adapted in the movie. It was just adapted pretty badly in my opinion. There are 3 entire chapters set at the Quidditch World Cup, which the movie somehow managed to condense into about 5 minutes. With a TV series we could get an on-screen version of one of the coolest segments in the Harry Potter books. Each of the aforementioned chapters has a different focus, with the first one introducing us to the campsite, along with some intriguing new characters such as Barty Crouch and Ludo Bagman. The second one focuses on the match itself, whilst the third chapter centres on the Death Eaters' attack at the campsite and the appearance of the Dark Mark. For those who don't know, Rowling has previously talked about how this latter chapter, which is called The Dark Mark, was the most difficult for her to write. So it's a real shame that she went through so much only to have the movie butcher this chapter to within an inch of its life. This whole segment deserves a thorough adaptation. I think an entire hour-long episode dedicated to the events of the Quidditch World Cup would be fantastic. So there we have it, those are 20 scenes I think it would be great to see in the Harry Potter TV series. Be sure to leave your own thoughts in the comment section, and I'll be back soon with another video.